All right, Libra, thanks for tuning in to your November of 2014 horoscope. My name is Athen, and let's have a look. So we've got Saturn changing signs this month. Very important, very impactful for all of us, really, and for you even more so, because Saturn has been transiting your first house. Now, this has been, over the past 2.5 years, the stern elements of Saturn. Overall, a lot of you have become more disciplined, more mature in general, especially with your outward appearance and how you communicate and a little bit in your relationships and that sort of thing. And so it's been a long time with Saturn there, and a lot of times, there's this breath of fresh air when Saturn leaves a certain area. And so for you, it's your first house, so it's really you. Saturn leaves you, gets out of Libra, leaves your sign, and goes into your second house sign of Scorpio. So he's going to be there for the next 2.5 years, give or take. So what's interesting, though, about this month is that it just so happens that the Sun, Venus, and Mercury are all following Saturn as he goes into that second house for you. So in the astrology, what that really indicates is that there is a personal shift into that area. And all of it is starting with your ruler, Venus, leading the way. Anytime Venus leads the way, it's usually an indication that we want to do something, that we're ready for those changes. And so for you, what I really feel is I think a lot of you now are ready for Saturn to shift, essentially. You're ready to put that hard work and discipline into the more material aspects of life. The second house has to do with material wealth, finances, money, income, resources, that sort of thing. So on a mundane level, that's where I think the attention's going to be. So for the next 2.5 years, for those of you that really put in that sense of maturity and that hard work attitude that Saturn's all about into the finance sector, can achieve a lot. Often Saturn is talked about only in terms of his limitations, and so it seems like wherever Saturn is, that's where we have lack of abundance. But it's not like that. Saturn being the teacher, essentially, if we utilize the energies correctly, and in this case, if we are actively involved in the financial sector, with our finances, saving money, watching where we're overspending, where we can limit our spending a little bit, and also put a little bit more emphasis on increasing revenue streams as well, or that sort of stuff. Basically the systematic approach to the monetary side of things. But again, it's also material value, material wealth as well, such as real estate and these sorts of things. So I think over the next 2.5 years, for those of you who put that attitude into that, you can achieve a lot. There can be a lot of abundance coming your way, because Saturn always pays off whenever we put in the hard work. So definitely opportunity for you guys to increase your abundance there. And so with the shift this month is really about enjoyment, because Venus is the first of the personal planets to go into that second house. So enjoy the finances. Watch the spending a little bit, pay attention to it, but you'll be surprised when you have a close eye on your finances, for example, you're able to actually spend more and spend things that are more meaningful for you, because it's all in Scorpio. And you guys, naturally with your finances, it's important that you spend things that are of meaning and have depth and value to them. So watching the frivolous spending, that sort of thing. But also, in terms of the Sun, it's gaining a sense of vitality and energy from this as well. So it's really wanting to get into the more earthly side of things, I really feel. And then Mercury is going to be following after that in terms of what we'll be thinking about. I think the monetary side of things will have stronger emphasis on our conscious mind for the second half of the month, pretty much, when Mercury enters. And that will be leading into more of the hard work and discipline that I think we're going to be wanting to make in that area. But with the Sun there and Venus there, like I said, there's a lot of enjoyment. So in terms of the finances, that's the kind of reading. But also generally, the second house is value. It's your value, actually. It's your sense of self-worth. It's a very personal house. And it has to do with what you can achieve and what you can attract to you and what abundance you can attract to you. So I really recommend over this month to really focus on, especially with Mercury, how you're thinking, your thinking patterns around your value, what you're worth. Because the bottom line is that we all deserve abundance. We're all spiritual beings, and we all deserve abundance. But what gets in the way is our blocks, our blockages. And this can be mental, attitudes and conscious thoughts, which is where Mercury can help us clear those blockages this month. It can be around emotional blockages, which for you, actually, there is some emphasis there with Pluto, which I'll talk about a little bit. But for the most part, it seems like mostly just conscious blocks could be worked out this month. Of course, you can always work on the emotional stuff, but nothing astrologically pointing out to that. Now, in terms of the sun, it's also realizing that you come alive when you realize that how much abundance is around you, because the sun is awareness, and wherever the sun is shining, we can see very clearly that part of our lives. So look at the abundance around you, be grateful, and that's when the manifestation really unlocks, is when we are grateful and we're aware and we embody that frequency of abundance within our being, and just generally. And that's what attracts abundance to us, because if we go around feeling like we have lack and we don't have abundance, then we're just going to attract more non-abundance to us. So keep an eye on that. And then with Venus there, relationships, and seeing how much abundance you have in relationships, because again, the second house isn't just about finances, it's all values, and there's so much to life that's so meaningful, and a huge part of that, you might say, is relationships. So with Venus going into Scorpio and into your second house, really tap into the immense value and abundance that you have in the relationship side of things in your life. And naturally, when you, like I said, embody that, you'll attract more relationships to you. Now, relationships are playing a role for you this month. Your ruler of your seventh house, Mars, is coming up to a conjunction with Pluto. It only happens once every 2.5 years. So also very important transit here. And when Mars goes over Pluto, it's very intense. These are both very powerful planets, and in this sense, it's a powerful energy that you can use. Now, in terms of what Pluto's doing, is Pluto's been transiting your third house, helping you guys restructure your thinking patterns, and that's what I'm really feeling for you guys in terms of that. So really tap into and release a lot of old modes of thinking that just aren't serving you, and replace them. Always replace whatever you release. Always replace with the positive thinking. Bring some of that into it. So there's a tremendous amount of energy to do that this month, generally with Pluto transiting, and it is relationship related, because Mars, ruler of your seventh, is going over, and it's also resource related too, actually. So again, not just with Mercury, but with Mars, the ruler of your second house, going over Pluto, a lot of you are going to be restructuring your finances this month, and it would be a great month to do that, especially around the 10th when this aspect takes place. So any restructuring, any releasing that needs to be done in that area, and I feel it's really associated with the thoughts, the thinking patterns, but whatever it is, utilize that this month, because Pluto's there to help. Pluto's there to clear out all the garbage that's not serving us in order to make way for the new. And this is new ideas, new ways of thinking about things, especially in this case around the second house. Now, in terms of the relationships, Mars going over Pluto, is that you guys will be restructuring a lot of your relationships actually this month. And don't be afraid to let go of any relationships that aren't serving you. This is the time to do that. With a relationship planet going over Pluto, it's time, and maybe some cleaning needs to take place. And it doesn't necessarily mean letting go of relationships completely, but it does mean stepping your ground and being firm on what, on your boundaries. And if there's anyone encroaching on any boundaries, this is the time when things could get power struggle if the energies aren't utilized correctly. But if the way to utilize them is to see everything, and you guys do this really well being Libras, see everyone as autonomous beings, and as long as you're not infringing on the rights of someone else, then all you can do and all you need to do is just worry about yourself and respecting your own autonomy and letting people know to respect your own autonomy, and putting that message out there, but keeping that firm ground. But anyways, nothing, intense necessarily for the relationships. Generally just transformation, and perhaps a lot of you might be wanting to start some new relationships or rework existing relationships to make them more in accordance with what you guys are about individually. Now, in terms of the full moon, on the 6th, we've got the full moon in Aries, so this is another indicator of relationships this month. So at the very beginning of the month, there's this, large awareness in terms of what's going on, and this is all relationships too, not just romantic, but, family, friends, all of that. So anything one-on-one, also legal matters for those of you involved with those sorts of things. Anyways, illumination there. So use the time around the 6th to really reflect on how your relationships are unfolding and what you can do to bring in more, because it's in Aries, you know, and so, and this is an ongoing thing with you guys, how to bring in more autonomy into the relationships and put that energy into constructively building them and stuff. So in either case, reflecting on that around the 6th will definitely be beneficial for you, so that later on in the 10th, when Mars goes over Pluto, it's much more constructive and you have a greater idea. Because if 90% of the battle is knowing, you know, it's the intention and being aware of the situation and the circumstance and of what we want in this sense, because it's happening in Aries, knowing what you want and then making the changes. Because if we just dive right into actions right away without actually taking the time to think about it ahead of time and knowing what we want, where we stand on the issue, it doesn't do us any good. So 90%, you know, it's just a number, but that's generally, you know, it's a very large part of it, is knowing what you want, where you stand, and what you can do in a situation. So, and this is all very individualized and has to do with yourself because it is happening in Aries. Now, the new moon on the 22nd is happening in Scorpio, so this is in that 2nd house. So I feel like as things are starting to unfold, you guys are really learning more about your sense of worth, your sense of self-worth and your value, and the tremendous amount of strength that brings. With Saturn, all these transits going over Saturn. And, you know, Saturn naturally rules your guys' 4th and your 5th chart too. So, 4th and 5th houses. So some of you might be, you know, I guess this is some emotional stuff actually here being reworked. You know, maybe this is the time to reflect a little bit on how you are feeling about certain situations and how to have a stronger sense of mastery over your feelings. But you guys naturally do that anyways, and this happens once a year. With the sun transits, but you can utilize it, certainly changing your inner state to be more in accordance with what you are putting out there into the universe. But on a more mundane level, home, some of you might actually be a time when you might be making some changes around the home, nothing major, but maybe a little emphasis there, maybe spending some time with family, and a creative time for you as well, with the sun going over the ruler of your 5th, and over Venus. You know, Venus will be going over the 5th house ruler as well with Saturn. So emphasis a little bit on home, family, and a little bit on having fun and enjoying life, really. You know, the 5th house is about whatever puts a smile on our face. And anything creative too, like I said, artistic or creative in that sense. This is all month long while these planets are going over Saturn. But in either case, you know, there's this shift, and I feel it's really emphasized with relationships, and then in this sense with resources, but overall your sense of self-worth and your sense of self-value. So step into that, step into the mastery, look at the big picture. You know, Saturn's always showing us the big picture, and what you can do to start building over the next, you know, two and a half years, to build yourself into a stronger, more resilient person and tap into your values and really be aware of what your, you know, personal values are. The 2nd house is basically the talents and traits that we are born with. You know, our innate abilities. So be a good time to really reflect on what you can do and improve on them. So if it's work-related, creative, whatever it is, look at your innate skills this month and see how you can improve them over the long term. Because Saturn there, and it is always associated with work or craftsmanship, career, something like that, usually with Saturn. So maybe, you know, in terms of work, bringing that into it. Because let's not forget, you guys have had Jupiter transiting your 10th house of career and work and that sort of thing. So there is an expansion happening there, and Saturn, you know, always bringing Jupiter and Saturn together can always help us with that as well. But all in all, definitely emphasis on your guys' shifting from the 1st to the 2nd house, and then on relationships for you guys this month. Now we have some station directs. We've got Neptune and Chiron going station direct in your 5th house. So if in terms of the fun and enjoyment, if things have felt like a little bit of a haze around that over the past 5 months or so, while these planets have been retrograde in there, know that there will be an easing. 16th, Neptune goes direct. By the end of the month, things will be cleared up there, and you should feel quite healed, I would say, certainly with Chiron in the 5th, in terms of your self-expression, your creativity, and your zest for life. All right, guys, so I'm going to draw a card and see where Spirit would like a little more emphasis. Okay, Mercury. Well, I'm glad that came up because I didn't speak about Mercury too much. Now, Mercury's flying by in everyone's chart, and he's going straight over your ascendant at the beginning of the month. He's going right through your 1st house and into your 2nd by the end of the month. So he's changing signs 3 times. Now, last month, like I said, there's been an emphasis on you. A lot of activity in your 1st house last month and during the eclipses and such. So you guys are kind of setting off into a new journey. And Mercury is flying through that 1st house, which suggests that for the middle part of the month, the emphasis will still certainly be on you and your achievements. So whatever it is you guys are doing, this new path or whatever's unfolded for you since October. So continue to reflect on that. Mercury is the messenger, so there's always information, there's always gifts that can be handed down to us when we're open, when we're intuitively open to that information. So keep a close eye on that. And overall, Mercury is just the message of having fun, being buoyant, and realizing that life goes on forever. Mercury's message is that this incarnation that you have is just one small fragment of many incarnations. So what's there to take seriously? There's really nothing to take seriously, and that's what Mercury's all about. And realizing that and having that joyfulness, that buoyancy for life, and then wanting to share it and be of service and share the information with others. So maybe some of you might be involved in some teaching or learning this month, but all in all, I think that's just a guidance to really tap into the Mercurial side of things, which is your intuition, your curiosity, wanting to learn, wanting to teach, and just overall wanting to share with others. All right, Libra, so thanks a lot for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.